India's Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri is on a 2-day visit to Nepal. During his hectic schedule, he has already met the who's who of Nepali politics. He has met the president of this Federal Secular Democratic Republic of Nepal, Ramchandra Paudel, Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli, Minister for Foreign Affairs Arjurana Deuba, and former ministers Sir Bahadur Deuba and none other than the chair of the CPN Mao Center, Puspakamal Dahal Prachanda. So he has a very hectic schedule amid this monsoon at a time when this country has been reeling under monsoon-borne disasters like floods and landslides, inundation and whatnot. Interestingly, during his high-profile meeting with the president of Nepal, the two sides discussed ways to mitigate the effects of climate change. On that occasion, per media reports, the president himself proposed that Nepal and India should work together to mitigate the effects of climate change. Let me read out a portion of that enlightening report. Without just going into the details, let me read out the relevant part. President Ramchandra Paudel said that Nepal and India should work together to reduce the impact of climate change. Enlightening, isn't it? Since the safety of the mountains and water depends on the safety of mankind, I'm getting a bit confused here. It is necessary for both countries to work together to reduce the effects of climate change, said President Paudel's press advisor, Kiran Paudel. Apparently, he was quoting the president of Nepal. President Paudel also talked about centuries old bilateral relations and how to strengthen them and expressed hope that it will just grow from strength to strength during the tenure of Foreign Secretary Misri. So this is a bit surprising to me. This climate change, the government has, in principle, made a whole lot of commitments to just mitigate the impact of climate change, to do its every bit to just uh, bring down the global temperatures. But what has it been doing in practice? It is very interesting. Recently, there are talks about the construction of another cross-border petroleum pipeline between Nepal and India. This is the Char Ali Siliguri, the Siliguri Char Ali petroleum pipeline to ease the supply of petroleum products to Nepal. There is this talk of building infrastructure in Char Ali itself, that what they call a greenfield storage facility in Char Ali of Jhapa, which happens to be the home district of none other than the present Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli. Then there is also talk about extending the Amlekganj. Uh, there is this talk about extending the Motihari Amlekganj cross-border petroleum pipeline up to Kathmandu. On the other hand, a whole lot of projects are underway to just evacuate the power generated, the hydroelectricity generated in Nepal to India through cross-border transmission lines, Supposedly, we are a very rich country in terms of water resources. This, despite the fact that hundreds, lakhs of people in the villages have to trek for hours to just fetch a pail of water. Many school children, lakhs of school children have to skip school to just ferry to fetch water from the nearby sources that are hours of hours long trek away from their homes. Such is the situation. But this country, it is busy just inking deals with the neighboring India for like the export of power, for improving the supply of water, the Himalayan water across the border. That is the situation. And Nepal has a very negligible carbon footprint. But with these petroleum pipelines, this consumption, with this easy supply of petroleum products like petrol, diesel, and cooking gas, the consumption of these petroleum products is also bound to increase. This comes at a time when Nepal, there has been a marked improvement in the supply of the green energy in Nepal itself. I'm talking about the hydroelectricity. What these petroleum pipelines will do is increase Nepal's reliance on fossil fuel, one of the major causes of this global warming, one of the major causes of increasing pollution around the world. Nepal has made commitments to reducing the consumption of such fossil fuels, but in practice, it is set to ink deals with India, the monopoly supplier of petroleum products to Nepal. It is set to ink deals with India as per reports for the construction of the Siliguri Char Ali petroleum pipeline, as well as the extension of the Motihari Amlekganj pipeline to Kathmandu itself. It has already signed deals for the export of 10,000 megawatts of green energy to India. Let us not forget that out of this 10,000 megawatts of green energy to be generated in Nepal, most of these projects have the Indian companies at the helm. They are investing their monies. They have mobilized their human resources for the generation of hydroelectricity. And all this, the Indian capital, the Indian human resources, the Indian construction materials, cement and uh, rod in particular, all this is Indian investment in Nepal. And this Indian investment is naturally aimed to just export, to ferry that power, to ferry that green energy to the Indian markets. And what's more, the government provides huge subsidies, tax rebates and whatnot, tax relief uh, to these companies that primarily are working to export the green energy to the Indian markets naturally, apparently, at great environmental costs to Nepal. I'm talking about the environmental costs because Nepal lies on a seismic fault zone. It is one of the most earthquake prone countries in the world, and it is one of the most affected. The climate change has a very disproportionate effect on Nepal. It has been at the receiving end of climate change, though its carbon footprint is nominal. So, how will these projects like the cross-border petroleum pipeline, which will increase Nepal's reliance on petroleum products, which will apparently lead to increased consumption of the fossil fuels. How will how will these projects contribute to the green cause as a result of climate change, among other factors? Nepal has been reeling under a massive impact of monsoon disasters. Let's now talk about these disasters. Let's hear from the horse's mouth what they call. Let's hear what our home ministry is the major agency that deals with matters like disaster, preparedness, rescue, and relief, that kind of stuff. So it will be quite contextual to uh, hear what the Home Minister Ramesh Lekhak has to say about this monsoon and accompanying disasters. Effective disaster preparedness attributed for reduction of damage, says Home Minister. That is a headline. Speaking at the Federalism Enablement and National Concerns Committee under the National Assembly, Home Minister Ramesh Lekha said this year's monsoon was marked by excessive rainfalls. However, the loss is relatively less than the rainfall ratio, and we are working regarding disaster preparedness as per our commitments. That's what he said at the Federalism Enablement and National Concerns Committee under the National Assembly. The meeting apparently discussed efforts in the management of floods, disasters, and other monsoon hazards and future actions. As he said, monsoon is expected to take around 1.5 months to depart, and we are more alert to potential incidents of disasters when soil gets relatively wetter this time due to the occurrence of rainfall more than average. I'm not just going into the grammatical errors and whatnot. It's just let's get the gist. Let's get the essence of what Home Minister Ramesh Lekhak has had to say. Essentially, what he says is like because of the government's preparedness, disaster preparedness, the losses have been like less than the ratio than the rainfall. It was like it has been a month of it has been months of heavy rainfall in Nepal, but compared to that precipitation, that heavy precipitation, the damage, the loss has been like uh, kind of nominal. That is what his point is. But according to the data that the minister provided at the meeting, the country recorded 212 incidents of monsoon disasters to date since June 10, and that period saw 170 deaths from landslides, floods, excessive rainfall, and lightning, with 197 injuries. The minister himself informed that 44 people have gone missing. So, in the words of Minister Lekhak, 170 deaths from monsoon related disasters and 197 injuries and 44 people going missing. These data are relatively less compared to the rainfall ratio, or is it the lack of preparedness on the part of the government to deal with such disasters? Because these monsoon disasters are nothing new. They have they occur year after year after year, but the government the government has always been lagging behind when it comes to dealing with these predictable disasters. Still, the Home Minister Ramesh Lekhak sees that the losses, he has assessed that the losses from these monsoon disasters are like quite low. This is the height of insensitivity on the part of the government. With this remark, I wrap up this edition of Soft Talk. I request you to subscribe to this channel, comment on our presentation, and press that like button. We are trying to promote citizen journalism. We request you to stay with us through thick and thin. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening.